In studio with us this morning, returning for her second trip to talk about the very important issue. Of course, no surprise, Sanya Goffe, president of the PIAJ. And of course, she's going to tell us why retirement planning is so important. Welcome again, Sanya.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely great to have had you back. Talk to us about the matter of why is pension not compulsory or even mandatory?
Well, I can't speak about why it's not mandatory. We do have a three-pillar system of retirement security in Jamaica. The first pillar is our NIS, and that actually is mandatory. You are required to contribute once you reach working age. Self-employed persons as well as persons who are employed with an employer are obligated to participate in the national insurance scheme. So that is a mandatory element of our pension regime. And the NIS, as you know, is a social security system that provides not just a pension benefit, but other benefits, maternity benefits, disability benefits, funeral grants, etc. And then our second pillar is the private sector pensions, where you have your employer-sponsored pension arrangements, your superannuation funds, and then the individual retirement schemes that we've spoken about in the last segment, offered by many of the different financial houses. There are 13 retirement scheme providers. So that would be like Scotia Bridge, NCV Smart, Proven Rock, VM. All of them provide pension retirement scheme products. Exactly. Options. And so, and then the third pillar for retirement security and savings is really your additional individual savings, your additional investments, right? And so we have, we do have a mandatory element and aspect to our pension regime, but the NIS is really not seen as an aspect of our pension regime that really will protect you sufficiently in retirement.
Yes, because the truth is, when you look at inflationary pressures throughout your working life, and the impact of inflation on your earnings, and so by the time you get to retirement.
The NIS benefit is just too small. And so that's why the second pillar is so important, which is participating in your employer arrangement if your employer has a pension plan, or if your employer does not have a pension plan, or you're not eligible to participate in that pension plan, joining an individual retirement scheme or an approved retirement scheme.
So we talk about the employer-sponsored arrangements and just about employed persons. And we in the last segment, we spoke to how little we were contributing to pension. Many persons, even those who contribute, are just contributing 5%, while they could go up to 20%.
Correct.
But one of the things that we haven't looked at is the plethora of Jamaicans in the self-employed, the entrepreneurial sectors, doing their own thing, earning an income, but may not have a retirement nest egg.
Yes, and that really is the reality that's facing a lot of Jamaicans. And, our employment landscape is very nuanced. So you have persons who are employed with an employer in the kind of traditional sense, but they're in a contract type arrangement. They're perpetually in a permanent position, a temporary position. And they're never, because they never become permanent, they're never eligible to participate in the pension plan. We have gig workers, we have self-employed workers, we have persons who kind of juggle different hats. And so, we are going to see, and I see the minister really championing for moving away from this, labeling all arrangements as contract workers and denying employees particular benefits. Or denying workers particular benefits when in fact they ought to be treated as employees in an organization. But at the end of the day, regardless of the designation or the label or the particular contract that you have to own your retirement security. And that's one of the challenges that we have as Jamaicans, where I think generally we see the benefit in savings and the importance of it. But as you talk about, financial pressures, there's the daily challenges of life, there's unexpected life events, it makes it particularly complex for us to really take that decision. And so the habit of saving for retirement becomes difficult when you can't do it alongside a paycheck that's steady, that comes in every month. And that's the benefit of persons who are in an employed environment where the employer has a pension arrangement. And so one of the things that we have to look at is finding additional solutions and being creative and finding ways to ensure that people are nudged and encouraged to participate and save for retirement. And so there are lots of initiatives that are happening globally. One is what we call micro pensions. So you talk about your gig workers, your carpenters, your fishermen, your taxi drivers.
The lady selling yams in Coronation Market.
How do we nudge her to put something aside for retirement? And what has worked in some other countries, particularly countries that have a large percentage of their population being low-income informal workers that we, as we have in Jamaica, is to do what you call micro-pensions. So you set up this micro-pensions account and you are nudged regularly, right, to participate, to put a little into a retirement savings. So unlike the traditional, you put something aside every month, or you go to a retirement scheme provider and you might put something in every quarter, you're nudged to put a little aside every week or even daily. And so the nudges come usually through your mobile phone. You might have credit on your phone and you're nudged to put a little money into a retirement scheme account. Or you go to the store or you go to the gas station and you are nudged to kind of top up your contribution and put it in a retirement scheme.
Is it, Sanya, a lack of awareness? Because these very same people, they do their round robins, the partners, and they do save their money and put away at a time. But is it that they're unaware of the reality of life in retirement, especially that people are living longer, and the opportunities that now every single Jamaican working and earning an income can actually have a pension?
So I'm not sure what really causes the inertia, but the part, I think one of the biggest challenges is that there's a lot of friction sometimes in terms of enrolling in these retirement schemes.
Okay.
And so it's very easy to participate in, as you said, the round robins, the partner schemes in your community, in your church. It's simple because it's the people I know and I trust and they're around me and I feel that I'm accountable to them and they're accountable to me. When you talk about an individual retirement scheme now, you're requiring me to go to a bank or go to a financial institution and sign up, fill out forms, provide ID. It just seems very stressful. And so what we need to do, especially around finding a solution around micro pensions, is reducing some of that friction when it comes to enrolling so that it's easy to do. And sending people into communities, sending reps into communities to make it very easy, simple, set it up on your phone, and that you don't have to think about it.
Here's the other side of that same coin. Because while we speak about the informal employed, informal earners, there's the professionals, the doctors, the lawyers in their own practice,
right?
Who may well be without a pension.
Correct.
Also.
Correct, and that's one of the challenges that we have, where people know it's important, but they don't appreciate how important it is to start early. You know, the time to start planning for retirement is not when you're thinking about retirement. and I want us to understand that, as you said, people are living longer. People are living 2 to 3 decades after formal work. So you could leave formal work at 55, 60, 65, and you need to have an income until, a stream of income until you're 80, 85 quite possibly. And remember, as we get older, particular health challenges tend to become more likely. And so programs like these, encouraging people to save for retirement is really important. But as I said in the last program, finding ways to change the choice architecture.
The big benefits. What are the big benefits of going through a formal pension system to save for your retirement?
The biggest benefit is that you get to participate or save through a tax advantage scheme, where your income is, your pension contribution is deducted before your income is taxed.
Yes.
And the accretions on those returns the returns on those investments are not taxed as well.
Right.
So when you hit retirement, when you reach what we call the decumulation stage, when you're pulling down that pension, that you will have a taxable event where your income will be taxed. That's the biggest benefit. There are a number of other benefits as well. You are able to provide for beneficiaries in a seamless way. So you can name your children, your spouse, a dependent as a beneficiary. And so if you were to die before you get your entire benefit, your beneficiaries get, without having to probate a will. You are also able to provide for joint pensions. You know, you and your spouse can get a pension when you reach retirement, depending on what the scheme provides. So there are a number of benefits in terms of saving through a retirement arrangement. I think what we need to understand, though, and I want to kind of come back to the point I was making earlier, is that enjoying these benefits, that's great, and ensuring that people understand that these benefits exist, also great. But we have to recognize that after how many years, how many decades of doing this, all of these financial literacy programs, all of these, initiatives to encourage people to save for retirement, we are still at 9 to 11% in private sector, in terms of private sector pension coverage. When you add public sector workers and now the tourism pension scheme, we're just at 18%. It's still woefully inadequate.
Very low.
So we have to find a way to encourage people, get people into a pension arrangement without them having to think too much about it. And so the auto-enrollment proposal that the PIAJ is advocating for is going to see if it is onboarded by the government, and we do have a lot of support in the private sector for it, we'll see employers being mandated to put an employee in a retirement scheme where that employer does not have a pension plan of its own. So if I go to, job X, and job X employer does not have a pension plan, that's fine. But he has to put me in a retirement scheme. No, it's not a tax, because I always control my retirement security and my retirement savings. If I do not want to be in that retirement scheme, I can opt out. And that's it. And I will have, there are other features to the proposal, auto escalation in terms of the contribution rate, auto re-enrollment, because sometimes you opt out because at this time it's not convenient to save for retirement, but a year later it might just be convenient. And I think if we look at that, we change the choice architecture and put people in. So rather than have an opt-in regime, which is what we have now, where we're expecting everybody who doesn't have a pension plan to take the step to opt in, we change it to an opt-out. So that we're going to put you in, the law is going to require employers to put you in, and you have to take the step to opt out. And what studies have shown, behavioral science shows that people, the same inertia and procrastination that kind of keep us from putting ourselves in the first place,
keep you from opting out.
Keep you from opting out. And so it has had a lot of success across the globe in terms of auto-enrollment programs. Not every country, some countries is not that successful, and there are usually very clear reasons for that. But I do think that this is a way that we can solve one of the problems. It will not solve the entire issue. But as I said, you have micro pensions for gig workers and low-income workers. You have auto-enrollment for those in the formal space. You can also consider things like, save as you pay. So basically, you're allowed to, when you go and you pay for a pair of shoes, you will then, you also put a little aside, as you buy something, you put something aside. As you buy something, you put something aside. So it requires a technological underplumbing, to gird some of these initiatives. But it happens successfully in a lot of countries, so it can happen here. And we have significant mobile penetration in our country. Everybody has a phone. And using the phone as a kind of linkage to your retirement account is quite, doable. And it's low-hanging fruit. We just need the initiative and the will, especially at the government level.
Absolutely great. Great to have had you, Sanya. After 2 programs, there's still so much to talk about pension and retirement planning. But happy you came and put something out there, showing the viewers how important it is to have a retirement nest egg. 18% coverage is just not enough. Ensure that you're in the covered section of the population so that when you get to retirement, you can live a wonderful, happy, go on that vacation, take that cruise. Come back with us tomorrow morning at 9 when we'll have another wonderful program lined up for you.